Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2, we're good. Okay. And I might have to work on my volume to allow volume to go up. Okay, make sure I got the right.
It's certainly the first hearing. If it gets done, it'll be or could be continued, and we don't know, but it's the first one.
Testing 2, testing. So we check outside to see it. So I see the mic is picking it up, but yep, now those captions happening. So good. So
It is happening.
yeah, so it's good on my end. Yeah. So we just be very clear to speak up and speak towards the mic, and we should be good to go. I apologize for that. Sometimes the best laid plans. My sin, right?
It might have been, everything stands these days.
Go ahead.
Back on the record?
Yes.
Okay, so no one on Zoom heard the initial opening?
Correct.
Okay.
There was no instructions. They were silent from the beginning.
We will start from the beginning.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Matt Curtis. I'm the zoning hearing board president of Churchill. Welcome to the meeting. We'll get the meeting called to order. The roll call. Tim Finnerty. Present. Here. And Gretchen Moore, solicitor. So hand it over to Gretchen.
Okay, thank you and good evening again. Today is the date and time that was advertised for the application of Rodi Maple Devco LLC, parcel 451-N-375, requesting a special exception under zoning ordinance section 304-21M to allow the use of a billboard in the C2 commercial district. Also requesting a variance from section 304-21M1, requesting an increase in sign face area from 250 square feet to 378 square feet. I understand there may be a modification from the applicant on that particular request, but that's as it was advertised. And finally, a variance from section 304-21M2G to permit a street right-of-way setback of 2 feet instead of the minimum setback of 100 feet. Are there any objections to the advertising for this hearing tonight? Anyone on Zoom? Alex, if you see someone on Zoom, you will bring them in so we don't have to kind of pay attention to it?
Yeah, I manage that.
Okay, thank you.
So what you might want to say though is if they did have an objection to that,
Raise
they
their
raise their hand.
Okay, great. So if there are any objections to advertising and you're on Zoom, if you could raise your hand, then the borough manager will be able to locate you and bring you into the hearing.
Assuming they can hear, And I would encourage everybody to speak up as much as possible.
Okay.
They have not raised their hand.
Okay, very good. And that brings up a great point. This is a hybrid hearing, so we have people who are here in the audience tonight. We have people who are on Zoom. I understand there are people in both groups who may be interested in participating in some way, shape, or form. So, everyone will have to have a little bit of grace, because it could be a little awkward bouncing in between. But what we will try to do when it comes to comments or questioning, we will address the people in the room first. Once we get through people in the room, we will then turn to Zoom. And if there's someone on Zoom, as Alex mentioned, as the borough manager mentioned, please raise your hand. He will locate you and then bring you on, and we can then speak to you at that point. Okay, so the way we're going to proceed tonight is we are going to deal with the issue of party and standing first before moving into the hearing. So having standing to participate in a hearing is a legal concept. You need to be an aggrieved person to have standing. So the people who wish to actually fully participate in the hearing and have standing, we are going to ask you to come to the podium, explain why you believe you have standing. You would then be subject to questioning from the applicant and or the board. There will be a determination made on standing before the applicant begins the hearing and presents their case. So we'll do that first in the room here, and then we will go to Zoom, and we will do that for anybody on Zoom. Now, you don't need standing to speak in this hearing. If you are a taxpayer or a resident and you wish to give public comment, we will do that at the very end of the hearing. You'll have 3 minutes to give public comment, and we'll go one by one. You stand up and have your 3 minutes to say whatever you wish to say on the record. So that's the difference between standing and public comment. We'll start with whether anyone here wishes to assert themselves as a party with standing to participate tonight. If so, you could come up to the podium one by one. And Kim, if we could do a general swearing in of the witnesses. Anybody who anticipates testifying tonight or speaking, if we could do a group swearing in, we'll do that first. And then we'll start with you, ma'am, with standing.
If you think you're gonna say anything, just raise your hand and be sworn in. Your right hand, do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
Okay, I think, ma'am, I saw your hand first. If you'd like to speak loudly into the microphone and explain why you have standing.
Can I get your name and spelling, please?
Kathy Rayborn, Raborn, 5562 Zigger Avenue in Penn Hills. I am the president of the Penn Hills Shade Tree Commission, and today I am representing myself. But as you can see, Penn Hills residents and Penn Hills Shade Tree Commission are here wearing green shirts as a way to show that they want the entrance to Penn Hills to be an inviting green space. I respectfully request that the Churchill Borough Zoning Hearing Board deny the request for zoning variance for 2 reasons. Number 1, the application includes an error in describing land uses bordering their property.
Ms. Rayborn, if we could just focus on the issue of standing first,
Yeah, I'm
which
sorry.
means your ability to participate as a party. So these are just be questions on where do you live, why you believe you have standing to participate. We'll get into your formal objections during the case itself.
So I'm not sure how much detail you want then from me for this.
Well, you started with your name and your address. If there's anything else you'd like to say, if not, I think counsel for the applicant may ask you a couple questions about standing.
Okay.
For example, how close in proximity do you live to the proposed billboard?
Pardon me, can you repeat your address, please?
Sure, 5562 Zigger Avenue, Zieger Avenue, 15147.
Thank you.
Ms. Rayborn, how close do you live to the proposed billboard?
I do not know the answer to that.
Can you approximate?
2 miles? maybe a mile and a half.
Are you also able to maybe point out on the map where you generally live?
Sure, would
And
you like,
maybe can we mark this map?
You can do whatever you like,
Alex?
yes.
Okay,
So obviously, that's just the borough map, so you'll have to, yes, on the north and east of the.
And Hills doesn't know.
Up on the exit sign.
oh,
That's it,
understood, okay.
Garden line.
Kathy, you're talking about the garden, not your home.
yes, I'm talking about,
That's all it was.
Yeah, we could speak from that over there, so they can pick you up.
so I'm actually referring my standing is about the garden that the Penn Hill Shade Tree Commission has planted and the street trees that we have planted, and it is just feet from the proposed billboard.
So again, your actual residential location is in Penn Hills, approximately 1.5 to 2 miles from the billboard location.
Yes,
But you have a garden that is several feet from the proposed billboard location.
yes.
Okay, and that garden is through the Penn Hills.
The
Shade
Western
Tree-
Pennsylvania Conservancy and Penn Hill Shade Tree Commission.
And what is your role with each of those entities?
I'm the president of the Penn Hill Shade Tree Commission.
Mr. Gallagher, do you have any questions for Ms. Rayborn?
Yes, you're a resident of Penn Hills. According to our map, you live 2.7 miles away,
Okay.
and we would object on that basis that this person does not meet the person aggrieved standard.
Meet the what, Sean?
Person aggrieved standard does not live in close enough proximity to the site.
Is there anything else you wish to say about your standing?
No, I would just like to read my short little talk.
Okay, so we'll deal with that either at the end or during the hearing, depending on whether the board allows you to have standing.
Okay,
Okay, so
so I
Thank
can have
you.
a seat? Thank
Yes.
you.
Good evening, my name is Pauline Calabrese, Pauline, Calabrese, Calabrese. I am the mayor of Penn Hills, and I'm here on behalf of all of the residents of Penn Hills.
so you're here on behalf of the municipality itself?
No, ma'am,
or
I'm,
the
I'm not a rep-
residents?
pardon me?
Are you saying you're here on behalf of the municipality or the residents?
So we are a home rule charter, and so
Oh.
according to our charter, I'm here under the home rule charter.
And that is Penn Hills. Mr. Gallagher, do you have any questions for Ms. Calabrese?
Yeah, and where do you reside?
I will tell you my residence, but I don't believe my residence is legal, or I'm sorry, I don't believe it's relevant. 142 Crescent Hills Road, 15235. I reside in Penn Hills, but I'm here on behalf of every resident of Penn Hills.
I mean, do you have some kind of proclamation or resolution that documents your?
I do, sir. It's the home rule charter of Penn Hills. I'm the representative of Penn Hills, and one of the requirements that we are saying that is interfered is that let me get the exact language. In the application, it states that your client is claiming that the variance is not detrimental to the public welfare. I submit it is detrimental to the public welfare, and I know you don't want me to get into detail right now, just in terms of standing. It is absolutely detrimental to the public welfare of the public of Penn Hills.
So according to Google Earth, you live 12 miles from the site, 2 miles from the site, and that is, again, same objection, not in close enough proximity to the site. So
And I'll just note for the record, I am here on behalf of.
I understand you're here on behalf of the people. That doesn't are standing on you, and that's our objection. So not to be confrontational, we have a record here, we're preserving it, and we object to your party status.
I understand, and I just want to note for the record as well, that I'm not here under my address. I am here for every individual, whether or not they live 10 feet from this parcel, or whether or not they are all the way on the city side of Penn Hills. Penn Hills is the largest suburb in Western Pennsylvania, and I am here on behalf of each and every resident here pursuant to our home rule charter.
Okay, but to be clear, not on behalf of the municipality itself.
But when you say,
There's a technical difference, so I just want to make clear, you're stating that you're here on behalf of each resident, as opposed to the municipality might have voted to kind of have you come here and represent the municipality.
what I'm saying is that, first of all, Mr. Finnegan knows that I'm an attorney. I'm not here in my capacity as an attorney. I do not represent the municipality. We are a home rule charter, and according to our charter, we have the municipality, which is the administration, and then we have mayor and council. You may know that in many municipalities, the mayor does not have the right to vote. In our municipality, I have the right to vote, but I also am the individual who represents all of the residents. And I understand if it's deemed that I do not have standing, I at least would like to make a public comment whenever it's
Understood.
appropriate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next. Yes, sir.
My name's Howard Davidson. I live at 3857 Green Valley Drive. My standing here is linked directly to Kathy Rayborn's and the Penn Hills Shade Tree Commission. I'm here to speak on her behalf and the behalf of the Penn Hills Shade Tree Commission as someone with 40 years of experience as a zoning officer for Penn Hills. I don't want to describe my testimony as expert, but I used to joke with people in Penn Hills that you become a zoning expert pretty fast when you work for the municipality of Penn Hills. So I have testimony to submit in that regard, as long as you rule that we're eligible to testify.
Okay, Mr. Davidson, you're here to seek standing individually, is that correct?
I'm here to speak on behalf of the Penn Hills Shade Tree Commission and as a resident of Penn Hills.
Okay,
I'm too far away according to him, we all know that. I'm here speaking for the Shade Tree Commission's work and our community project at the bottom of Rhode Island Road. I believe the land is publicly owned. It's supported by a Penn Hills Shade Tree Commission. We've done a lot of work down there to beautify that spot. I have some testimony in regard to zoning that I think is relevant to the position that the applicant is taking and the language in your ordinance.
Mr. Davidson, what's your position with the Shade Tree Commission?
Volunteer member,
Any
and
questions?
I'm a retired director of planning for the municipality of Penn Hills and director of code enforcement for the municipality of Penn Hills.
Thank you. Mr. Gallagher, do you have any questions for Mr. Davidson?
Yes, I mean, he admitted he's not a resident, but according to Google Earth, he lived over 3,400 feet away from the site. We would raise the same objection that that's not sufficient proximity.
All those objections are pretty much a waste of time, aren't they? Can we just move them faster?
We got to give everyone a chance who wants to have standing. Is there anyone else who wishes to obtain party status?
Good evening, my name is Kathy Bortner, and I live at 1926 Hampstead Drive in Churchill, and I'm requesting party standing for this public hearing.
Your last name again?
Bortner, B as in boy, O-R-D as in David, N-E-R.
Thank you. And what is your basis for party standing?
I believe that I live 0.863 miles from the site of where this will go as the crow flies. I believe that this billboard will impact me. It will have a direct effect on me because of the, I drive on Rodi Road, and I drive in that area going back and forth. And I believe that it poses a hazard to people who drive in that area.
Any questions?
I would
for
just
Ms.
ask
Porter?
that Ms. Bordner mark on the map exactly where,
On this one here, or
which one is the,
Yeah, she's able to mark.
Yeah, you can use that one.
this one?
Yes. Is there a pen there for you?
I have a pencil.
Yeah, mark it up.
Okay, let's see here. Churchill Road, Hampstead Drive, okay. Dan Road, I would say. Probably right here. Big F circle.
if I may, guys, identify on the map where the subject
Yes.
property is. So if you can see this very top corner, one parcel that it doesn't even look like it's in Churchill Borough, just get put subject property. Right here, this is 0.86 miles, and we would again object that there's no way that this is gonna be visible from her property. Therefore, she doesn't have sufficient standing. And there are Supreme Court cases or Commonwealth Court cases that have addressed taxpayers traveling roadways, and that doesn't give somebody sufficient standing above and beyond anybody else who travels those roadways. So we would object to Ms. Porter's party status. We would not object to her public comment.
Ms. Porter, is there anything else you want to say as it relates to standing?
I believe that the way I understood it is that if it would directly affect you, that you would have standing, or you could have standing if you requested it. Am I mistaken?
It's a legal concept. It deals with proximity first and foremost, but not necessarily proximity. But you definitely have to establish that you are aggrieved in some way that is different than the general population.
Well, I believe that the people who do not drive over there would not be aggrieved by the safety hazard. Whereas the people who do drive on Rodi Road, on the exit from the parkway, so on and so forth, that is a group of people who will be aggrieved by this billboard because it will pose a safety hazard.
Are you stating you are one of those people?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
How often do you drive by that exit?
You know, my schedule, I babysit for my grandkids, and you never know, if somebody gets sick, and they're out at some park, you got to go get them and all that kind of stuff. So it's really hard to say. I would say probably at least once a week, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week, maybe every other week. And also I use that area to go to grocery shopping at the Giant Eagle over there, PNC Bank. There's a nursery that has, really great plants. I think the Steel Goat. And I take that route also when going to doctor's appointments. My husband and I go, you call to make an appointment and you try to get in it as soon as you can, which might be at St. Margaret's or it might be, in Monroeville. And we take that route to get to those appointments.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one question. So, you had commented that you can't see the billboard or the proposed billboard from your home. Is that true?
To be honest with you, I didn't realize that that was going to be an issue because I participated in another public hearing situation with the Amazon issue, and it wasn't that you had to see it. So I don't know. I haven't stood in front of my house to look and see. Or, our house is on a hill, so there's a possibility, but I kind of doubt it. I mean, I just really don't know.
Yes, sir.
Is there a microphone in there? Hi.
Hi.
Is there a microphone in there?
The microphone pickup is the owl.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Towards
My
the
name
owl.
is Jerry
Wow.
Chippinelli, CHIAPPINELLI, because you'll never spell it. What's up, Mr. Flaherty? 921 Cimarron Drive.
Sorry, can you spell that, please?
Which one?
Cimarron.
Cimarron, CIMARRON.
Thank you.
I've been a resident of Penn Hill since 1968, and I'm the chairman of the Planning Commission. And I do have status, but for the record, nobody lives where that sign's going. Nobody. It's impossible. It's on a street. It's on the highway. It's a garden. And it's going to reflect what people think of Penn Hills. They're not going to know it's a sign from Churchill or Wilkins or the mystery people of the LLC.
Mr. Chippelli.
Chippinelli.
Chippelli.
It's okay.
If we could limit it to standing right now,
Sure.
the reasons why you think you have.
The
standing.
reason why I'm the chairman of the Planning Commission.
Okay,
It reflects on what we've done in Penn Hills, and it detracts from the progress in Penn Hills. It's a sign that's gonna be distracted, and we're gonna get blamed for it,
do you,
because no one even knows that's Churchill.
where do you live in?
It don't matter where I live.
Pennsylvania?
I live 10 miles away,
Okay,
but nobody lives there. It's right near the Comfort Inn. If you want to get residents from the Comfort Inn, they live closer for you. But it's impossible to have anybody that lives there.
okay.
We all pass there every day, and the sign will distract drivers. And we've turned this sign down before when they tried to get it further up in Penn Hills.
Mr. Gallagher.
Go ahead,
any
Mr. Gallagher.
questions?
No, we would, just.
You
state
object
for the
because I don't
record-
live close by.
Yes, and again, none of this is personal, we're.
No, I understand that.
Okay,
So
so.
nobody lives there.
It is personal.
I
Okay.
understand that, but I'm,
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
or I'm.
Do you
Thank
have another
you.
question, sir?
No, I just wanted to place, we do have according to Google Earth, this is 3.61 miles away. And
As the crow flies.
the same objection, that this isn't
Sure.
sufficient proximity if there's no standing.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kelly.
Thank you. Chippinelli.
Chippendale. Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay, this is gonna be difficult for me because my heart is pounding. Okay, so my name is Frank
Oh,
Alice.
wait, if we could just
Wait till I get
come
here.
up, Frank, yeah, but wait till you're there and then talk into the owl. Our court reporter's having a little bit of trouble hearing. And if everyone could just not talk when someone's talking into the owl, it'll make it go.
Okay, I might make a few mistakes along the way, but I think I know what I'm talking about. My name is Frank Alice, and I live on 11219 Frankstown Road for 23 years.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
11219 Frankstown Road. I care so much about this community, and I care so much about our connecting communities. Okay, I believe I have pictures on my phone of almost exactly where we're talking about, and I would guess it's Churchill property of 3 bags of trash that I picked up one morning, okay? Bags of trash that were ripped open that sat at this location for over a year, and I got tired of looking at it, so I went out and I cleaned it up. I posted it on Trash Snappers as an anti-litter group, and like I said, I have photos. That's how much I care about this community, is going out and cleaning up the streets and trying to make it a better community for all of us every day.
Understood,
And-
Mr. Alice. At this point, we're focusing on whether you have standing to participate. You will be able to say all your
Yes.
comments if you don't have standing at the end,
Yes,
and you'll have 3 full minutes to do that. What is your reason that you believe you have standing to participate in this hearing?
because I'm a resident of Penn Hills and I'm a taxpayer, I own a home. And I drive by this area every day to go to work or this is a very high traffic area for a lot of us Penn Hill residents. And we spend a lot of time trying to make beautification in our community. whether it be planting trees and plant flower gardens. I mean, so that's what I believe.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Any questions for Mr. Alex?
No questions. I would just note that Mr. Palace lives 1.7 miles away and not in the municipality. And for the same reasons as previously stated, we would object to Mr. Palace's party status.
Any other questions for Mr. Alex? Thank you, Mr. Alex. Okay, anybody else physically in the room who believes they have standing? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Ann Turnock, A-N-N-T as in Thomas, U-R-N-O-C-K. I live at 535 Newport Drive, 15235. I have a question. What is the distance that you are using to determine whether someone has standing?
Sufficient proximity is on it. There's a no bright line
Well, you
test.
say 0.8 miles is not sufficient. What is sufficient? 500 feet, 1,000 feet, a
That's for
mile,
the board to
less than a
determine.
mile, 500, half a mile? You're just
Right.
rejecting everybody.
Well, and to be clear, there's been no decision by the board on any of these requests. The board will then decide, once everyone's done, the board will make a decision and determine who has standing, so the board will have to decide.
Okay.
But the applicant is putting objections on the record where they see fit, but this board has not made a decision yet.
All right, individually, as the crow flies, I am probably less than half a mile from that billboard site.
Okay,
If you do it by roads, it's probably longer than that. I drive by there at least a couple of times a day. It's where I spend my time. And I also wonder about the process of the construction of this thing. Is it going to stay on Churchill property? I have no confidence that they're going to be able to raise this thing by being exclusively on Churchill property. They can't.
we'll get into the merits when we get into the hearing. Mr. Gallagher, do you have any questions for Ms. Turnock?
You live in Penn Hills, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and I just note for the record that Ms. Turnock lives 0.89 miles away from the site. And again, same objections.
One more thing, if I may. Where I live, I will be able to see the light from this sign at night, if not the sign itself. And I may very well be able to do that in the winter.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room who wishes to obtain party status? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for holding this hearing and allowing us to participate. My name is Greg Swatchick. I'm at 648 Gramac Lane, Gramac.
Yeah, spell your name.
Greg Swatchick, Swatchick.
Have your road name again, please spell it.
Gramac Lane, Gramac.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Would it be all right for the purposes of establishing standing to provide a brief visual aid that can assist me verbally and do this quicker?
Does it have to do with your proximity to the
Yes,
billboard?
absolutely.
Sure, then let's do that. And you'll have to provide a copy to the applicant as well as the board. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, using my handout, page 1, it shows where a wrong boundary line was for Penn Hills, and there were court cases ensuing that changed that. When it did change that, it changed one of the lines that defines the metes and bounds of Churchill. The scope of the boundary commission appointed by Judge Farino did not address that area on the planet. It snuck right up to it. The reason the scope was restricted was we were interested in seeing where Mr. DeAndrea could build commercially on the hilltop, because the Wilkins side is zoned commercial, the Penn Hill side was zoned residential R1A, the lowest density we have. So it's like vinegar and baking soda in the same glass up there. So the zoning ordinance controls, but after Penn Hills told him he couldn't change the zoning 3 times, his attorney, through a confirmatory deed, relocated the boundary line. And then I looked into it, the zoning maps of Penn Hills and Wilkins, and discovered they were in dispute by 600 feet where it bangs Monroeville. So we got a petition of 50 resident freeholders by Purden Site 55302, which allows Judge Farino, it turns out, to appoint a boundary commission made up of 2 professional engineers surveyors. So my standing goes specifically.
Okay, yeah, we could get to the,
Yeah, the standing goes specifically that the manager was kind enough to share with me when I was doing some perusal of my own, that he's relatively new here, but he remembers Mr. Whitling, I think his name is. He's a PE and an attorney hired by Wilkins to do the bidding for their belief as to where the line is. He came over after it was all said and done and notified and cautioned the now manager that that court order could have in fact affected the Churchill meets and bounds. But it just died. No one ever looked into that. So my contention is that in as much as the relocation of the old boundary to the now legal boundary that was ascertained and established by law, and as much as it altered, and you can see the old and new map of Churchill, there was a, I don't want to call it finagling there, but there was no legal determination. My concern is that that same line runs through or within feet of this very tiny triangular parcel that's a target for the billboard. So if it moves ever so slightly, because the job is basically complete. And the last thing I'd like to say, this was all Wilkins at one time. They came in and set one line dividing it. Wilkins was on one side and Hills the other. Then Churchill was born from that. So if the lines near that set Penn Hills Wilkins boundary, if, you know, Churchill's a function of that line. And that is exactly the bullseye of the subject matter. So I'm concerned that that was never looked in. I wanted to get it off my chest for the record because I was privy of information that may be valuable to the board, just to determine my standing.
okay, well, to determine your standing, which is the only thing we'd like to focus on right now, how close in proximity do you live
I
to the
live,
proposed billboard?
I live right here, and here's the billboard on the map. I don't know the distance, 800 yards. He's
Mr. Young,
real good
do you have
at
any
the
questions
board,
for Mr.
point to point.
Swasher?
648 Gramick Lane.
We have it at 0.43 miles
Okay.
in Penn Hills.
Yeah.
But it's our view, and this would show the intensity and cooperation of our local government over the years to protect and preserve the nature-looking environment. You know, we care about trees and shrubs and nature, but we're not trying to
Mr. Swasher, you will have an opportunity to say all of that. We do want to keep moving forward with the standing, so we understand where you live and we now have a distance.
and a history that you're aware of where there may not have been the I's dotted and T's crossed legally.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else here in the room this evening who wishes to seek party status? Okay, let's quickly, if we could go to on Zoom. Do we have anybody? Oh, I'm sorry, we have one more gentleman here. Yes, sir.
My name is Felix Catlin. I'm presently homeless. I live in a small red Mini Cooper that I park at Fidelity Insurance most of the time. Sometimes I park it at the Comfort Inn. How far are those away from the site?
Those are your legal residences.
I'm homeless. And I work with all these organizations that are here this evening. Enjoy that.
Okay, do you have any questions for?
No,
Mr.
I
Hitler?
think the case law is clear. You have to be a resident, you have to live in close proximity. I'm sorry that you don't have a home, but that's not a basis because you park somewhere close to this site to confer standards.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Caitlin. Move to the Zoom.
Yeah, Gretchen, online, we have 19 attendees. One raised their hand, which is a Mr. John Stranahan. He's a solicitor for Wilkins Township.
Okay,
John, if you could unmute and turn on your camera. Meanwhile, I'll promote other attendees to panelists as they raise their hands to seek standing. You may go ahead, John. Stranahan.
Hi there. Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay, great. I'm John DeAndrea. My brothers and I own
This isn't John Stranahan.
701 Rhode Road, 703 Rhode Road, which are our only access is through Maple Lane. And the only other property up there is the Comfort Inn.
I'm sorry, John, I did not get your last name.
DeAndrea, D''Andrea.
And the properties that you own?
701 Rhode Road. That's the Dapolonia building up on the hill. 703 Rhode Road. It's the former Vocolect Honeywell building. The only access to these properties are through Maple Lane.
And what is the approximate proximity of those properties to the proposed billboard?
A few hundred feet.
Okay. Mr. Gallagher, do you have any questions for Mr. DeAndrea?
I'm sorry, you own these properties, just to be clear?
Yes.
I would have no objection.
No objection. Okay. Thank you, Mr. DeAndrea.
Thank you.
Stranahan should be, is Stranahan next?
He just needs to unmute himself. If he'd like to turn on his camera, he may.
Mr. Stranahan, you're up if you would like to proceed. S2.
I noticed in the attendees that the manager for Wilkins is there, so I'm promoting her in case she wants to speak on behalf of the township, but they did ask that he speak on behalf of the township.
Okay.
For whatever reason, he might have audio and difficulties to see.
All right, well, Mr. Stranahan, we'll give you another moment.
Rebecca Argo is the township manager in Wilkins.
Okay,
Rebecca, you may go ahead and unmute yourself and speak. If you'd like to turn on your camera.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I know that John Stranahan is with us as well this evening. My name is Rebecca Vargo. I'm the manager for Wilkins Township. John Stranahan is the solicitor for Wilkins Township this evening. I was having a problem figuring out how to unmute myself, and I'm wondering if that's not the same problem that he's having. The parcel, whoops, sorry, I'm sitting in my office and my lights just went out. Sorry about that. The parcel of land that the proposed billboard is to go on is a parcel that the boundary line between Churchill and Wilkins goes through. The township would respectfully request standing, and I can see that John is now also on.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me now? I was unmuted and was not really having audio or video for some reason. But we
Yes,
just,
we see and hear you.
I just reiterate Rebecca's request for purposes of standing. You know, we're an abutting municipality. A portion of the subject parcel is in Wilkins. So we'd like to participate and collectively represent the community with regard to concerns over these zoning and public safety and welfare issues in the hearing.
Okay, thank you both. Mr. Gallagher, do you have any questions for Mr. Stranahan or Ms. Argo?
Yeah, I am. I mean, the site is not located in Wilkins, and I am unaware if you have any legal authority that provides the adjoining municipality with standing in these instances.
The parcel of land upon which the billboard is going to be constructed is split between Wilkins and Churchill. The billboard is going in Churchill, but the parcel of land is split between both municipalities. The roadway that the billboard will be 2 feet from is a roadway that is maintained in the wintertime by Wilkins Township. All of the businesses on that roadway are Wilkins Township businesses.
I mean, I just placed legal objection. I don't know that just the municipality confers standing of anything else.
Okay, your objection is noted. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else out there on Zoom who wishes to seek standing?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, we have one more person, ma'am, in the audience.
Hi, my name is Deborah Tamboro, and I feel I would be remiss if I didn't come up and put standing in for the Comfort Inn. I work for the Comfort Inn. I represent the owners, Mohammed Salim and Mohammed Tanvir, who unfortunately were unable to be here tonight. But the biggest concern, and we have walked this area, we're very confident we know what parcel we're talking about. It would be right in front of our hotel, number one. And secondly, it is a turn off of Maple Lane, which I travel 2 to 4 times a day. There is a safety issue here. And I think that this is something that really, really needs to be seriously considered before putting that sign in that area, especially if we're shortening the frontage on it.
Is it Ms. Tambora?
Tamboro, Tamburro.
Okay, and you said you represent the owners. You are not an attorney, is that right?
I am not, no.
Okay,
No.
so you're here in your individual capacity tonight.
Well, I'm
You're
their
not
office manager.
Okay, you're an office manager at the Comfort Inn.
Correct.
And what is the physical address of the Comfort Inn?
699 Rhode Eye Road. And it's 15235.
And in that capacity of office manager, you said you travel by this off ramp several times a day.
Oh, yeah, anywhere from 2 to 4 times. I go out for business to run errands in the morning, out in the afternoon, come back, and then leave again in the evening.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gallagher, do you have any questions for Ms. Tambora?
Where do you reside?
167 Shenandoah Drive,
And where is that? What municipality?
Pittsburgh 15235.
The extent she's seeking party status as an individual, we object.
Yeah, she doesn't represent the Comfort Inn, but you're seeking it on behalf of the Comfort Inn.
Correct. I'm here on behalf of the owners. And I'm not an attorney.
Do you have any questions or objections
No,
to that?
we have no objections to the Comfort Inn.
Okay. Does the board have any questions? Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm gonna exhale my breath and hope that that was the last one. If so, we're gonna go into executive session and we'll come out and make some decisions on party status, at which time the applicant can then start their case. We'll get this thing moving. Thank you, everybody.
going to unmute now, and I see that the closed captioning is working, so I'm assuming the folks out in Zoom land are hearing in Facebook as well live.
Wonderful. Okay, and one more bit of housekeeping on behalf of the court reporter. Please only have one person talking at a time. It is very difficult for her to get multiple people talking or people talking over each other. And she has full authority to yell at people if they're doing it. So let's all do our best to only talk one at a time. With that being said, the zoning hearing board is back on the record. We had a very short executive session to have some quasi judicial deliberations on making decisions on standing. With that being said, is there a motion to grant standing to the following people and or entities? Ms. Rayborn, Penn Hills, through Mayor Paula Cabrese, contingent upon reviewing the home rule charter, granting her such authority. Ms. Turnock, Mr. Swatchek, Wilkins Township, Mr. DeAndrea, and the Comfort Inn.
Yes, I move.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And is there a motion to deny standing to the following individuals or entities? Mr. Davidson, Ms. Bordner, Mr. Chipinelli, Mr. Alice, and Mr. Caitlin.
Yes, I move.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, with that being said, we will turn it over at this time to the applicant to present its case.
Thank you. Sean Gallagher with Buchanan, Ingersoll and Rooney on behalf of the applicant. And before we begin, a couple house matters. Sorry. I have some pre-marked exhibit books in the zoning narrative that outlines the application's compliance with the zoning ordinance standards. We'll be referring to this through our hearing. It will move it into evidence after the hearing. As originally filed, the application was for a special exception and two-dimensional variances. As noted, one variance was for the billboard provision, 100-foot setback from a right-of-way. We are still pursuing that. There was a second variance for the size of the base, and we are withdrawing that variance application. However, we are also adding another variance, and this is one it's kind of duplicative. It is the variance from the front setback standards for the C2 zoning district, which are 25 feet, which is 25 feet. So it's kind of a lesser, but similar variance from our 100-foot variance request.
Okay, that's the same setbacks from the same street where by ordinance under the billboard section, it requires a minimum of 100-foot setback.
Correct.
Okay,
So the C2 setback is 25 feet. That's table 201. That's the chart with all the dimensional requirements.
okay.
For that, I'd like to call my first witness. What do you want? Can you see the board? Okay. Can you please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, my name is Tim Earl. I'm one of the owners of the applicant.
And what's the applicant?
Applicant, Rhode Island Maple Devco LLC.
Okay, and what is your position?
I'm sorry, could you please speak up to what you, yeah, thank you.
Sure. What is your position? Your principal?
Yeah, I'm principal of the applicant.
Okay. How long have you been in the this industry?
Been in the billboard industry for over 8 years.
Okay. And you're familiar with the technology proposed for this site?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And have you reviewed all the exhibits in the narrative that was submitted into the record?
Yes, I have.
And are they true and accurate to your, best of your knowledge? Yes. Okay. Do you have a lease for this property? Yes. Okay, and is that a redacted lease for this property? Is that identified as Exhibit 2? Yes, it is. Where is this site located?
This is on the northeast corner of the Churchill Borough.
Alex, if you could put up Exhibit 3, please. Can you identify for the board what Exhibit 3 is?
So Exhibit 3 is a site plan showing the location of the proposed billboard in relation to the property itself. It also has the boundaries of the lot along with the municipal boundary between Churchill and Wilkins Township.
Okay. Section 30421M of the zoning ordinance sets forth all the requirements that apply to billboards. I just want to run through these requirements with you. Is there only one billboard proposed? Yes. Is each face of the sign less than 250 square feet?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is the sign attached to a building?
No.
Is the height lower than 25 feet?
Yes,
Do you know what the approximate height of the sign is?
it's 20 feet
Okay.
above the base of the sign.
Say that again.
20 feet above the base of the sign.
Okay. Is it located within 500 feet of any other billboard?
No,
Is it within 500 feet of a place of worship?
no,
Is it within 500 feet of an existing school?
no,
Is it within 500 feet of any recreational facility?
no,
Is it within 500 feet of a residential district?
no,
Is it painted directly on the wall of any building?
no,
Will there only be one billboard structure located on the subject property?
yes,
Will the sign utilize any flashing lights?
no,
Moving lights?
no,
Intermittent lights?
No.
Does it contain any string pendants or banners?
no,
Will the proposed sign contain any bare bulbs?
no,
Will it contain any light strings?
no,
Will it contain any searchlights?
no,
Is it a sandwich board sign?
No.
Does it contain any text or image that might be confused with legitimate traffic control devices?
no,
Is it mobile?
No.
Is it located on the same lot as another structure?
no,
Is it attached to a utility pole?
no,
Is it attached to a tree?
no,
Will it be constructed with durable materials?
yes,
Will it be maintained in good condition and repaired?
yes.
So, how long does it take, if you receive approval, how long will it take to construct the sign?
Construction of the sign itself would take approximately 1 to 2 days.
Okay,
Start to finish.
and you would have a traffic control plan in place?
Yes.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Okay, so we do have a number of people who have standing to participate. I would encourage you not to be duplicative in your questioning. So we'll try to go through this in an orderly manner. If you are currently in the room and you desire to ask questions of this particular witness, please raise your hand and then we'll go one at a time and then we will move on to Zoom. Ms. Calabrese.
Sorry, one point of
Yes.
clarification. Did you say Kathy Rayburn is a party?
Rayburn. Yes.
And that's in her individual capacity?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That is in her capacity as president of the Shade Tree Commission.
Okay, as the Shade Tree Commission,
Yes.
and she was determined to have the closest individual standing. I mean, she was the closest resident to the property. I'm just trying to understand face.
Yeah.
So Ms. Rayborn's, the standing is not in her individual capacity. It's only as president of the commission, and it has work right in that area where it is beautifying that area and has active work in that area. So her capacity is solely as president of that organization.
My understanding for an associational standing, you still had to have one member who had standing.
Well, there's another member who does have standing, we believe, Mr. Sorry. What was the last name?
He lives on ground.
Yes, there was a member who had standing, but as president, we thought she should have standing on behalf of the entity because she's president.
Sorry, I was just,
Mr. Davidson.
I was just going down my list. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you clarified because I actually had that in my notes and I didn't read it. So to be clear, on behalf of the entity, she is president. We did feel there was another member of the entity who is in closer proximity, but
Understood.
okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to start with Ms. Calabrese on behalf of Penn Hills. Am I saying your name correctly?
No, Your Honor, it's Pauline, Pauline Calabrese.
Calabrese.
Yes, thank you.
I will try to get names correctly. I know that is important. Ms. Calabrese, you may ask questions of this witness.
And for the sake of the camera, if you stand in proximity where the voting was, that'd be perfect.
Here,
Thank you.
thank you. Good evening, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Tim Earl.
Tim Earl. Sir, you don't live in Penn Hills, do you?
I do not.
You don't live in Churchill, do you?
I do not.
Your clients don't live in Penn Hills, do they?
I do not have what clients are you referring to?
Is it, are you not here in your representative capacity? Oh, you're the owner. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. When you testified earlier, you were testifying about lights. Did you mean traffic lights? Were you testifying in reference to traffic lights?
I believe you were asking questions relative to sections of the zoning ordinance relative to prohibited signs.
Did you understand that to mean traffic lights?
Traffic lights are not, no, they're not regulated by the zoning.
Well, what did you mean by lights when you said it's not near any recreation or any lights? What did you mean by that?
I think there was two separate questions. One, is it within 500 feet of a recreational area? That's one question.
To which you answered no, correct? And what was the second question?
Well, there's a series of questions about string lights, pendant lights, flashing lights, things like that.
Okay, what did you mean by pendant lights?
That would be lights that are, I'm not sure that even was a question.
Can you keep your voice up? I cannot hear you. That would be lights that are.
There are pendants, I don't even know if that was the question.
Well, you testified that it wasn't, that this,
Pendants.
excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm asking, the question is, what did you mean when you testified that this would not be near any lights? What did you mean by that?
I did not testify that to that.
You said it wouldn't interfere with traffic lights.
No,
Well, that's what I
it
just
would not-
asked.
It would not resemble, any content of the sign would not resemble any
Okay,
traffic lights or something like that.
well, this is going to be an electronic billboard, correct?
Correct.
And traditionally in our society, we have Christmas lights that are red or that are red or green, correct?
Yes, I'm correct.
So anybody who would advertise on your sign, would you prohibit them from using the colors of red and green on that billboard?
I would not think that would cause a billboard to be confused with traffic lights or no.
So it's your testimony that if there's a traffic light that has a red light and a green light, that billboard that says has red and green coming off it could in no way be confused with the traffic light.
No, I don't think so.
You had, did you cause the you signed the application for this variance, correct?
Yes,
Have you actually visited the site?
yes.
How long ago?
Probably 6 or 7 times. Most recently being this afternoon.
And when you were there, did you notice that there's a garden there?
I did see some plantings down the road a couple hundred feet, yes.
Are you aware that Penn Hills is the largest suburb in Western Pennsylvania?
I did not know that.
Do you know we have close to 30 neighborhoods? You know, don't you, that that garden comes from the turnpike onto the parkway, and that's one of our major entrances into Penn Hills. You're aware of that, aren't you?
I'm not.
You're not aware of that, okay. Are you aware that Penn Hills was given $800,000?
Object on relevance.
Your Honor, this goes directly to, he said that there is no, will not interfere with recreation. And in the application, it also says that this will not, under his signature, that this variance will not substantially impair the development of adjacent property, nor will it be detrimental to the public welfare. That is primarily what we are here for.
Overruled. You can ask a few questions along that line.
Are you aware that we are spending Penn Hills money to substantially improve that specific corridor? Are you aware of that?
No.
Are you aware that we have $1 million right now in grant money where we are putting sidewalks on to improve Rhode Island Road? Are you aware of that?
No.
Are you aware, sir, that it is our intention to make Penn Hills walkable from the senior center? We've already put sidewalks in at the senior center on Jefferson Road. Are you aware of that, sir?
No.
Are you aware that we have public housing where people are using wheelchairs and scooters, and we have people who use public transportation, and we are spending $1 million to increase those sidewalks so that people can walk from the senior center or public housing on that road? Are you aware of that, sir?
I'm not.
Are you aware, sir, that we intend to improve that area to beautify that so that it may actually be a place of recreation?
No.
So then, sir, you really didn't know when you applied for this variance, did you? That you would in fact substantially impair the development of that property?
Objection.
It was his, is that objection overruled, Your Honor?
That one I'm finding a little bit argumentative, so I'm
Okay,
going
I'll
to sustain
withdraw
that
the
one.
question.
Your questions were heard, your
Okay.
actual questions were heard.
Are you aware, sir, that we have planted trees and gardens along that roadway to improve that property?
No.
No further questions.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Calabrese. I think what we'll do is, again, please do not be duplicative to the extent that you can. We'll go through if anyone has questions, at which time then, Mr. Gallagher, you can redirect your witness when the questions are done.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else here who was granted standing who has any questions for Mr. Earl? Yes, Mr. Swatcher. Am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you. Am I allowed to submit what I handed you earlier as an exhibit and refer to the question so he can understand what I'm talking about?
So I'm not sure this particular issue is within the scope of the direct testimony he just gave. I think this particular issue, to the extent it is an issue, is something you should raise in your case in chief. So it's not directly responsive. So right now you're asking him questions about the substance of what he just answered questions about.
Okay, if I restrict my questions and frame them within that, would it be okay?
I'm not sure that there's anything relevant as to, so he went through the zoning ordinance and meeting the criteria of the zoning ordinance. So if you could, at this point, focus your cross-examination on that,
Okay,
that'd be great. And then, again, in your
All right.
case, you can,
okay, thank you. I think I understand. This is my first rodeo in this kind of arena, so I appreciate that.
okay.
Sir, hi.
Hi.
Are you aware that there was a boundary dispute between Penn Hills and Wilkins in the vicinity of the project?
Not until you started talking earlier today.
Okay, thank you. Are you aware that as a result of the boundary resolution by court order, that there was a meets and bounds line segment of Churchill which was altered to accommodate the court order, and that segment runs through the parcel that you are going to place the sign on?
I believe that there is a Wilkins boundary. The Wilkins-Churchill boundary does bisect the property.
It traverses through it.
Correct.
So it's not your belief that it resides on one side or the other? I know it's saying the same thing, but I'd just like to.
Yes,
put that
this
in
question came up I believe, the borough manager asked the question, are we aware there's the line comes through? I engaged my professional engineer to add that line onto the site plan.
Yeah.
Based on his deep research to show that where that was, his sealed site plan then was added, as exhibit, was that exhibit 3? Yep, so that shows the boundary.
I appreciate that. For the record, I did review, the manager was kind enough this morning for several hours. I did review the full file, including all the emails, and did see that email you're referring to.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very good question that the manager asked, but I thought the answer was very vague and not definitive. Certainly not as definitive as the court order that the boundary commission made up of 2 PE/surveyors when they ascertained and established the Penn Hills Wilkins line, because the Churchill line is a function of that. So if, in effect, Churchill got lucky, it used the correct line, and then it got botched after and refixed, Churchill is okay. And our understanding of where that line traverses through your parcel is okay. But for me, and I think for anybody in the world, they would tell you that we really don't know that answer, because the scope of work stopped just prior to that. But it is right there. It's, you talk about proximity. It is, a coincident one point between Penn Hills, Wilkins, and Churchill. And that's within spitting distance of where we are. So you would think, sir, that if 2 political subdivisions had a dispute and a third one was involved but not adjoined or became a legal party, that we could be in a mess that we're in the wrong building to decide this. I'd like that to be in the record. I understand, do you understand, sir, that in order to ascertain and establish that there's many vehicles, one is the township, any political subdivision, be it a municipality, borough, could bring a petition to the court to do that.
Place an objection on relevant grounds.
Yeah, I'm gonna sustain the objection right now.
Okay.
And I'm gonna ask you, Mr. Swatcher, to the extent, I think you're kind of trying to present
Yes.
your case, and if you could hold that to your case, and ask, again,
Okay.
focus your questions for this witness right now on the scope of what he was asked questions about.
I understand. I got off track. I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Are you aware that there's a mechanism by which a boundary line can be legally ascertained and established?
So just renew the same objection.
Yeah, I'm gonna sustain it. Again, Mr. Swatcher, if you can present this in your case, and use whatever witnesses you need, but we're not in your case yet. We're still in their case. So again, this would be the time to ask him any additional questions about what he just testified to.
Okay. I will say this for the record. There was a question you asked him that I disagreed with the answer. And I have to tell you, I forgot.
Oh, okay. Well,
And I tried to remember by going in the lobby and getting a sheet of paper. By the time I got in, I forgot, but I was hearing all your other questions too, and I lost it. So if I could, I think you may have wrote them down. Would it be okay for me to see that list of questions and just review it and sit down? For now, I'm done, except for I'd like to challenge the one answer he gave, but I forgot the question.
okay, let's do it this way. He asked some questions, he went through the zoning ordinance. We can
Yes.
provide you with a copy of the zoning ordinance, and you can review the copy of the zoning ordinance. If you have any questions on the billboard section that you want to pose to this witness, you could come back in and do that.
You mean back in now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can't use his piece of paper.
No,
Okay.
no,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, Alex, do you have a copy?
In a few minutes now.
Yeah, okay, let's do
Okay.
it that way, and in the meantime, we'll move on to the next person, and then you can ask that question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're
I'm
welcome. Is there anybody else in the room tonight who has questions for Mr. Earl? With the folks who are standing, that is. Yes, Ms. Turner.
I have a question about the size of the sign. You said it would be 20 feet high.
Yes,
Is that from the ground to the top of the sign would be 20 feet high?
yes, at the base of the sign to the top of the sign.
We're trailing off. Tim.
So it's going to
Wait,
say-
Wait. Base of the sign to the top of the,
From the base of the sign to the top of the sign.
base of the sign to the top of the sign, but is the sign going to be on the ground or is it going to be elevated on something?
No, it'll be on the ground.
It'll be on the ground
Yes.
and it will be 20 feet wide.
It will be 22 feet. The sign face itself will be 11 feet in a vertical dimension, 22 feet in a horizontal dimension. Sign face. So then the sign
Okay, so the
structure,
screen will be 11 by 22.
correct. The structure
And the
itself,
top of that 11 feet will be 20 feet off the ground.
correct.
Okay, so the sign will be 9 feet above the ground.
The bottom.
The base of the
bottom
sign,
edge of the sign.
the bottom of the sign will be 9 feet.
Correct.
Do you not think that that low a height will make it a target for vandals?
That's why it is 9 feet.
That's why
It's 9 feet. Yeah, that's.
you don't think you think 9 feet is enough to keep it from creative vandals?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that all your questions, Ms. Turner?
I
For this
believe
witness?
so.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Your name again?
Dave Stokes, S-T-O-K-E-S.
Wait, I'm sorry, Mr.
Oh, you're
Stokes.
doing the
Yeah.
ones that are.
These are the folks who have standing, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Didn't think I recognized you.
Next time.
Okay, yeah, you, public comment at the end of this, which I don't think will be tonight, but you're welcome to join in then. Okay, so at this point, we will turn, I believe we have, why don't we do board questions now as well, and then we'll go to Zoom. So, Mr. Curtis.
So I have a question about the schedule.
Yes.
You said it would take 1 to 2 days.
Yes.
Can you explain that process to me?
Sure.
To dig foundations?
Yes. So the sign structure itself is a steel structure. All of those components are fabricated off-site. They're brought onto the site. Well, first, yes, the foundation would be excavated. Steel support column would be embedded into that foundation, concrete board. Job site would demobilize. Once that concrete is secured, the rest of the steel structure would be brought onto the site and erected within another day.
So the foundation, you can do in a day.
Correct.
What are you doing with all your spoils?
Those would be either spread on site or trucked off.
And what about electricity inside? Is that included in that same 2 days?
That would be a parallel process, depending on how long the electric company would take to do that work, but the on-site work would be within that same period.
I can't hear you, the on-site work.
The on-site work would be during that same period.
Mr. Kennedy?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. At this time, Alex, if we could go to Zoom, and I understand again, Wilkins Township is there along with Mr. DeAndrea. And if either of you have questions, you can let us know, and if you don't, you could just let us know that as well.
They're being promoted to join as panelists.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Speaking. Mr. DeAndrea, is that correct?
Yes, you're able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the couple questions I have are, has anybody done a traffic study on Maple Lane and that intersection?
Are you asking me if I've done one or had one done?
Yes.
No, I have not.
Does anybody have, I have some old maps. How wide is that road?
The width of the pavement,
Correct.
not exactly sure, but it looks, it's a two-lane roadway.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a very narrow road. So my concerns are, I believe Wilkins Township, I'm not really sure, they're the ones that are maintaining it and taking care of it. The road is very narrow.
Fair question.
And yeah, so I don't know the exact dimensions, but we can look. The amount of traffic from the hotel and my tenants, including truck traffic with deliveries, so small freight, tractor trailers, going up there, the road's very narrow. I travel that road several times a day.
Mr.
And-
Dan, if you could focus at this point just on questions for this witness. We're trying to kind of get through this in an orderly fashion. You will have an opportunity to
Okay.
testify. When it's your case, you'll have an opportunity to testify, which is kind of what you're doing right now. But if you have particular questions for this witness, now would be the time for that.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Okay, so with that billboard now, so initially you were going 2 feet from the road with the pole?
2 feet from the right-of-way line, which is not the edge of the pavement there.
Okay, and then how far will it stick out above the road? So my concern is the truck traffic.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not going to be over the road at all. It'll be 10 or 15 feet back from the road up the hill on private property, not on overhanging the road at all.
Okay, and in the hillside, so you're building into the hillside?
Building on top, there's a little bit of a plateau where the foundation of the sign is located. So there is a flat area where that sign.
And then the landscape, the shrubbery, the falling trees on that property, because I'm not sure who owns that property. Is it the Damians that own it, or the borough owns it? Or is it part of the, so there's a lot of, because I get complaints from my tenants about the trees falling and and overgrownness of it all. And I was wondering how that would be addressed.
Well, certainly, yeah, if we're going to be improving the property with our sign, we're not going to want to have we would be making sure that any of those trees you're talking about that could potentially fall on the road or fall into our structure would be safely removed so they don't present a hazard.
And then on the other side of the road is an island, right? So when you come up Maple Lane, it's almost a right-hand U-turn, right? So it's sort of an island in the middle between Rhode Island Road and Maple Lane.
Correct.
And also there's high trees there. So if your billboard's going to be 22 feet high or 20 feet high, there's a hillside there that's probably 10, 12 feet, as well as trees growing on those. So are those going to be removed? I mean, if you have your sight line, you won't be able to see your billboard anyways. That's what I'm saying.
The 20-foot height is from the base of the sign. So the base of the sign is up on the plateau. So it's actually it's more than 20 feet above that roadway. So I believe that height, additional height of the topography of where the sign is going to be placed will have it elevated above that visibility line.
And it's a digital billboard, so it'll constantly change.
Series of static messages that instantaneously change from one static message to the next.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. DeAndrea. Mr. Stranahan, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yes, thank you. I don't want to be duplicative, but I do have a few questions related to the hardship element. Mr. Earl, on your application, your written application, it appears that you represent the property to be approximately 1.42 acres. Is that correct?
I believe 1.4 acres is what the application says.
The total property itself is approximately 13.61 acres. Isn't that right?
There's really two lots, two separate lots. There's assigned one tax parcel ID if that's what you're referring to, but they're actually two separately divided lots. one lot, a 1.4 acre lot on the east side of Rhode Road, and the balance of the larger property under the same tax parcel ID identifier, that separate lot is on the west side of Rhode.
So they are not subdivided.
They were physically subdivided when the parkway was condemned by PennDOT.
Well, what I'm getting at here is the property is 13.61 acres, and it's developable under the terms of the zoning ordinance. And if that's true, then these
Argument, he's not asking.
Yeah, well, I'll sustain that. Mr. Stranahan, do you have a question?
so the total property could be developable under the zoning ordinance.
Are you referring
Is that a question or is that,
That's a question to Mr. Earl.
okay. Mr.
I mean,
Are you saying that the lot on the west side of Rhode Road could be developable?
I'm just reiterating that the property itself is 13.61 acres and asking if it would be developable under the terms of the zoning ordinance.
I believe there's two separate lots. The subject lot where the billboard is proposed to be located was 1.4 acres. And there's a second lot that the tax assessor chose to also assess under the same tax parcel ID, even though it is a physically separate lot. I don't know I haven't looked at that lot to determine anything about its developability.
Okay, I understand. I don't have any further questions on that subject. Don't want to hold things up any further.
Okay, are you done, Mr. Stranahan?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Redirect?
Yes, just a few follow-up questions. Just going to that lease agreement and the tax parcel. Your lease, and if you could, I guess, for the board's convenience, you could put up Exhibit 5, Alex. And what we're reviewing, this is Allegheny County tax parcel map, which is Exhibit 5. In this tax parcel, I know we're going to hear additional testimony on this, but just to clarify for the board, the red outlined area is the 13 plus acres that Mr. Stranahan was just referring to, correct?
You're saying that the two red areas, yes.
Okay. And then you said that it was subdivided and physically subdivided by the construction of the interstate, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I believe Exhibit 7, which is in the book, this is, John, you can just hold on here. If you could just look at Exhibit 7, this is, you identify what this is for the board.
Yes, this is the PennDOT highway plan for the condemnation of the right-of-way that physically subdivided the property into two separate lots.
And this was dated 1957. Look in the lower corner.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And your lease agreement, which is Exhibit 2, it is not for this entire 13 acres parcel, correct?
No, it is not. It is only for the smaller lot on the east side of Rhode Road.
Okay. The one that only has 3 sides.
Correct. A 1.4 acre lot.
You were asked questions about, and we have a setback variance that's 2 feet, but that's 2 feet from the right-of-way line. But that's for the face of the sign. The face is actually set back further from the road, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Do you know the exact distance or the approximate distance?
It's approximately, it's all the way at the back end of the sign, so it's approximately 20 feet from the front edge of the sign.
So the face of the sign is nearly compliant with the C2 front setback.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And the sign is cantilever over.
Correct.
Okay. The site is going to be unmanned, correct?
Unmanned, yes, no, not occupied.
So there's not going to be daily traffic to and from the site.
No, really minimal traffic. Maybe once every couple months.
And that would be one vehicle.
Yes.
I believe you mentioned this, you have a stamped site plan that shows the location of the proposed billboard.
Yes, sealed by engineer.
And the billboard is entirely within Churchill Borough.
Yes.
You were asking questions about this garden that you just heard about today.
Yes.
That's located in Penn Hills, several hundred feet away. Did you review on Google Earth how far that or how close that is?
Yes.
And is it more than 500 feet?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Swachek, did you remember your question? Sorry, I forgot to call you before.
That's okay. I just wanted to ask if you were aware that the Woodland Hills School District approved a charter school application for the now vacant Vocolek building pending the State Board of Education's approval and subsequent conditional use approval and modifications to the building that Mr. DeAndrea got notice of. So potentially there's a school that is in the process of going through all the required procedure. And so I'm just wondering if you were aware of that, even though the question you were asked before said, is there an existing school within, I believe it was 500 feet. So if school would go into the Vocolek building for Mr. DeAndrea, would your sign be within 500 feet of that at a future date?
Objections, calling for speculation.
Yeah, I'm gonna sustain that. If you, for the record, could you just tell me where this building is that we're talking about with this potential charter school?
Yeah, it's
Like a physical address? Or is it a? is it a parcel?
Mr. DeAndrea's building,
It's Mr., okay,
701 Rhode Island Road.
okay, gotcha. I wasn't sure what building it was. So
Yeah.
understood, thank you. And you did say this is just, it's an application, nothing's been approved. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
the question was framed, is there an existing school?
Yes.
Right, but I just wanted to put in the record that there is in process the possibility to have an existing school.
Okay, thank you. And in your case, you can put that information in as well.
Okay, and then the other thing was, if you look at the exhibit that you showed, the colored traverse busted into two pieces, if we could bring that up again.
What did you say, the colored what?
Traverse, his parcel of land, sorry. Okay, I just have a question for you regarding this. You see the line framed in this picture that is depicting the Penn Hills Wilkins boundary.
Yes.
It jogs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 segments.
Yeah, Penn Hills to the north, right, yeah.
Okay. Did you notice that that line, as it jogs, is 5 segments with 4 vertices?
I'm gonna renew the same objection.
Yeah.
The relevance
We're gonna
will be at the next.
Yeah, Mr.
Question.
Patrick, I'm gonna sustain that objection. Again, I think this issue is more relevant for your case to the extent you want to put in this information, but not for this witness.
Okay,
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Rayborn.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, is this a double-sided electronic billboard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any redirect based on those last 2 witnesses? Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Schwartz?
Been sworn in already, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you please identify yourself for the board?
Yeah, Andrew Schwartz with Environmental Planning and Design,
Okay.
100 Ross. Andrew Schwartz with Environmental Planning and Design, 100 Ross Street, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15219.
Just that, would it be easier if you stood over there?
Will that be better?
Okay.
Yeah, Justin.
I need to read something, I may have to borrow.
Oh, here, take it. Take your pointer.
It doesn't matter because they can't see it either. We'll be, okay. We'll guide you through graphics. So
Okay.
there's a match, you're getting into the match.
Okay. Can you just explain what is environmental planning and design?
We're community planning, urban design, landscape architecture from, been in operations for about 83 years.
And what is your position with it? I'm just gonna refer to it as EPD. What's your position with EPD?
I'm an owner and director of design.
And what are your job duties?
Managing the firm, leading community planning projects, focusing on zoning ordinances, community master plans, comprehensive plans. Also do work for private sector clients, developing land plans.
Your Honor, could the witness be asked to speak up?
Yes, if you could speak up. I think you're more helpful for our court reporter now that the audience is having trouble hearing you. So project. Thank you.
Okay, and what's your educational background?
I have an undergraduate degree in landscape architecture from Penn State University, a master's in urban planning with a concentration in real estate from the University of Michigan.
And your municipal, you said you have a substantial municipal practice?
Yes.
Okay. How many, and you represent municipalities in the drafting of comprehensive plans?
Zoning ordinances, preparing zoning ordinances.
How many zoning ordinances do you think you've
I've been
drafted?
practicing for 33, 34 years, well over 100.
Do you have any teaching experience?
Yes, I'm an adjunct professor at Indiana University of Pennsylvania in the regional planning program, which is in the School of Geography. Teach planning and design students.
Okay. And previously, did you, can you explain what the local government academy is?
I'm a trainer for a local government academy, which is a nonprofit organization that provides support to municipalities, oftentimes doing courses or sessions in terms of for zoning officers, et cetera, related to administering zoning ordinances, rewriting elements of zoning ordinances, et cetera. So we were a trainer for local government academy, also a trainer for the state association of boroughs, PSATs, and PSATs, which is the State Association of Townships.
Do you have any accreditations?
I'm an accredited planner, AICP. Also hold distinction with, there's about 60 of us in the country, as a certified urban designer. That's also through AICP. Registered landscape architect in 5 states. Lead accredited sustainable sites or sites AP accredited. A lot of initials.
Okay. And have you ever testified before?
Yes, numerous times.
As an expert in the areas of zoning and land use?
Yes.
Okay. And have you always been found to be an expert?
Yes.
Have you ever not been allowed as an expert? Okay, this time I would offer Mr. Schwartz as an expert in the fields of land use and zoning.
So the folks who have standing here and on the screen, there is an opportunity for you to, if you desire, you don't have to, challenge Mr. Schwartz's position as an expert. The board doesn't have any questions at this time for him. If there are any questions specific to his status as an expert, very, very focused questions, you may ask those at this time. Or you can say you have no objections to his status as an expert. So anyone here want to place anything on the record? Okay, anyone on Zoom expert-related questions only. Okay, you're not seeing any hands?
No.
Okay, so hearing no objections or questions to Mr. Schwartz as an expert in zoning and land use, qualified as an expert.
Thank you. Mr. Schwartz, you were retained by the applicant to study the proposed development, correct?
Yes.
And to issue a report.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And that report is, I believe, identified as Exhibit 8.
Yes.
And rendering your opinion, what materials did you review?
The application actually for the zoning airport application, as well as the concept plan, which I believe you had on the screen earlier. The Borough of Churchill zoning ordinance, the Borough of Churchill zoning map. Also took a look at the borough's grading and excavation ordinance, which is chapter 180, as well as the PennDOT design manual.
Mr. Schwartz, please pause for 1 second. Do you have one extra copy of this, Mr. Gallagher? Okay, to the extent anyone was standing wants to review this report, there's one copy here. If there's anyone who wants it right now, raise your hand. Anyone? Okay. Okay, sorry for the interruption.
That was my own copy. You have a copy?
Here, I don't
I'm
need
good. I'm good for right now.
No, I have one. I gave you.
I'm sorry.
I know all the exhibits. It's okay.
Mine's in my card.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll leave it there in case anyone wants it.
If council needs this, I'll be happy to.
No, we have an extra copy right here too. We're good.
Okay. I'm sorry, we left off of what you had reviewed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And this is not the first time that you have reviewed this property.
Oh, actually, no, I looked at this property and that's assignments.
Okay, and that, one of those previous assignments was evaluating
Commercial district.
and you reviewed all the C2 property. Was this in connection with a validity challenge with this ordinance?
Yes, yes.
With respect to distribution centers?
Correct.
Okay. And in that report, you reviewed all commercial properties from the borough?
Evaluated slopes in each of those properties, the land uses that were permitted within those commercial districts.
Okay. Thank you. So here, the billboard is located in what zoning district?
C2.
And billboards are permitted as a special exception.
Correct, in commercial district.
And more just for the edification of the audience, what is a special exception? I mean, that sounds like something's not allowed under a zoning ordinance.
And actually, again, without getting into land use law, our understanding is the way that a special exception is treated, it's a use, a permitted use, but it's held to a higher distinction, meaning there can be standards specific to that use imposed beyond the general standards that you find elsewhere in zoning laws. And it is something that is reviewed at the discretion of the zoning hearing.
Well, I guess I would disagree with discretion, but
I agree. I shouldn't have used it.
no, I understood. And Mr. Earl, he went through all, there's standards for billboards in the zoning ordinance, correct?
Yes, if you go to the special exception section of the zoning ordinance, that's what everybody was referring to, 304.21. There's a series of standards there, and that is what the borough has deemed as requirements for the application. So any application that comes in needs to meet those standards.
Okay. And the billboard as proposed meets all those specific special exception standards,
Yes, we believe so.
except for
The setback of the 100-foot sign setback.
And
There's two different setbacks we're talking about. There is the front yard setback, which is the 25 feet, and then there's the 100, which only applies to billboards. And that is related adjacent, the closest adjacent public street.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the last part?
The 100-foot sign setback is from the closest public street, is where it's measured from. So that's a part of the special exception.
so the setback for the billboard is 100 feet and the C2 district is 25 feet.
Correct, for a building, you know, it could be 25 feet, but the billboard has to be 100 feet.
And the base of the sign, so the request is for a 2-foot variance, or I would say a 98-foot variance.
Perfect.
Be 2 feet away.
Yeah.
But that is just the base of the board, it's not the base, correct?
Correct. The support structure, again, the question was asked a little bit earlier. It is what we would call double-sided. It's a V configuration. The point of the V is closest to Maple Lane. The support structure is in the wide part of the V. So post right here, notice the billboard like that. This is about 22 feet back from the property, from the right of way.
So the base is more compliant with the edge of the face.
Correct.
Okay. And the applicant in requesting these variances has taken the more conservative approach.
Yes.
But would you say that is the zoning ordinance clear what constitutes the setback? The base as compared to the edge of the sign?
No. There's not a clear distinction in the current zoning ordinance. The terminology used in the structure versus sign kind of is intermingled, and there's not a clear distinction. A lot of ordinances will be very clear where the anchor, where that post is allowed to be relative to setbacks. And oftentimes the sign is permitted to cantilever into the front yard setback, so long as the support post is outside of that, because they treat it as a structure.
And you know, Mr. Earl went over a couple of these, but if you could go back to Exhibit 5, Mr. Graziani. And this property, has it ever been developed?
No.
And it's been in this current state since at least, well, I guess forever.
Well, so it appears based on the PennDOT documents from when the parkway was created and the ramps were created, condemnation went back to the early 50s, mid 50s. The date's on the drawing.
Okay. And the subject property doesn't have, when I think of a property, I think of at least 4 sides. Is this a normal lot in those terms?
Again, because we got 2 different screens, the property we're talking about is the one on kind of the east side or the right side of Rhode Road. So the one that looks like a knife blade. And so, yes, what is unique about the property, there fundamentally are only 3 sides. There's the frontage on Maple Lane. There is the northern boundary, which would be towards Wilkins and Penn Hills. And then you have the kind of the north-south boundary, which is along the kind of parallel to Wilkins Township itself.
So if you could turn to the second page of this. Exhibit, please.
And while he's doing that, so what that means in zoning terms is there's a front yard, a rear yard, and 1 side. Whereas most lots have 2 sides, front and rear. So again, it's just a unique situation, this property.
And this is just a close-up of the subject property, that knife section that you were just referring to. Is there any access from the Wilkins Township border?
No, no public thoroughfares.
Okay. And the current property, it's currently covered with vegetation.
Yes, it's treated.
If you could turn to Exhibit 9, please. Can you identify what we're looking at here? Oh, sorry.
Okay, the map that is on the screen, we took the surveyors or the engineers drawing and started to superimpose. I think the challenge in this whole case is imposing the borough's zoning ordinance standards on this particular property. And there are some things that may work at the ordinance in other locations, but when you actually apply them to this particular site, we get some weird stuff. There's some peculiar idiosyncrasies in terms of property. So the first thing we did, to Mr. Gallagher's question, is we took the survey from the surveyor, superimposed setbacks. And I'm just kind of working through the legend. It's kind of right below where Alex is, yep, right there. The blue line are the setbacks. There are 3 different setbacks illustrated: front yard, side yard, rear yard. And so you'll see there's a line that kind of follows along parallel to Maple Lane. That's the front yard setback up towards, as we were talking earlier, the community garden to the north, and then on the Wilkins side, the rear yard. There's also then a purple line.
What is the red line?
The red line is the municipal boundary, as best as we can understand where we know the municipal boundary is, in this case, between Wilkins and Churchill. So that was pulled through public records and then, of course, kind of tied to the actual survey. So that's where we think that municipal boundary is in space. And then the purple line is actually the 100-foot sign setback, which is regulated through the special exception.
Okay, and that's what we're seeking a variance from, is that purple line.
Correct, correct.
And just by the face of this exhibit, it would be possible to comply. Because you wouldn't be in the borough.
That's the next unique thing. So back to now applying your standards to this particular site. Again, nobody in this room created this property. This is a byproduct. It was raised by the solicitor in Wilkins. We have properties on 2 sides that are still the same tax, but they're different parcels. This was all kind of left over from building the parkway. And yes, when we take the 100-foot setback, that pink line is actually projecting into Wilkins Township. From what I understand, Churchill can't regulate what's in Wilkins Township, but when we apply that standard in this particular situation, that's the end effect. So what happens is there's nowhere on this property within Churchill that we can actually place the building.
Would you characterize, and we'll get to.
And comply with your.
Yeah, understood. So that's the reason why it can't be within 100 feet, but would you consider this property to be steep?
Oh, the property, the terrain?
Yes. Can you explain the steepness?
All right, so the black lines are the contour lines, so those are lines of topography. These are basically 1-foot contours. Where you see the lines closely aligned with each other, kind of packed together, those are the areas where we have the steepest gradients. Where the lines kind of spread out, it begins to flatten out a little bit. The average slope on this property is over 30%. So think of a handicap parking space, that is 2%. The handicap ramp is 8%. The average is 30% of this property. In some areas where the really tightly drawn lines are, or they're closely packed together, those grades go up to 70%. And again, that's all kind of the byproduct of what we understand when they built the parkway itself. Recontoured that area, and obviously getting Maple Lane in there as well.
What is the elevation change from back to front?
It's about 48 feet across the property. So from the top of the slope towards the Comfort Inn, I'm up by the parking lot down to Maple Lane, it's about 48 feet of fall.
Are there any encumbrances on this property?
There is a PennDOT slope easement. That's why we have reviewed the PennDOT design manual, because that gives guidance in terms of what is permissible on the slope easement. So the slope easement was.
I'm sorry, can you show on exhibit 9
Yeah.
where the slope easement?
There is a dashed line that kind of parallels the blue front yard setback. It's really faint. It runs literally from the northern end down to the southern end. It probably average is 20 feet to the east of where the setback line is. So in some cases, that slope easement is projecting or applying to about 50 feet of the property. In the slope easement, when PennDOT had purchased right of way, or they did the combination, they got the right of way, then they realized they didn't have enough room to grade the hillside back to put Maple Lane in, put the ramps in. What they would do is go to the adjoining property owners and acquire a slope easement so they could grade on somebody else's property. And that's what the slope easement, that lives in perpetuity. There are encumbrances on that slope easement. There'll be words, and if you read the language, it says the property owner has the right to enjoy the property, but they really can't regrade it because that was, they needed it for the slope. They don't want it to be detrimental to the drainage, have anything impact the Maple Lane or the roadway. So there are some restrictions on what somebody can actually do with that slope easement. But because it goes from the northern end of the boundary all the way to the southern end of the boundary, there is nowhere in that property where to get into the interior of that parcel. 1.4 acres, it's not that big of a parcel, but to get to the interior of the parcel, to do any development, it's not even about a billboard, anything that is permitted in C2, you would actually have to go through that slope easement, which is virtually impossible.
And you mentioned the C2 uses, and I just, going through the zoning ordinance, those include banks.
Yeah, so, uses by right, if you pull this up, may I?
Yeah.
And just, you're referring to the use chart in the zoning ordinance?
Yeah, so I think it's table 201. Yeah, table 201. So in C2, uses by right, so permitted uses, banks, business services, offices, public use, motel, accessory use. Is conditional uses, so conditional use similar to a special exception, except where it goes to the elected body, council in this case. Single family dwellings, childcare centers, churches, schools, distribution. Single family, childcare, churches, schools, distribution centers, group residence, large community residence facility, multifamily dwellings, retail store.
And
I'm sorry, what was the last one?
Retail store. Best Buy.
So with this slope easement, you would not be able to develop any of those uses on this property?
Correct.
And that's, and access to the site would also be
correct
an issue.
So I think, again, from a land use planning standpoint, the zoning of C2 on this particular property, not that there's anything wrong with the C2 district, but when you apply those land uses to this particular piece of ground, it's virtually impossible to use it for those purposes. So the billboard as a special exception would be the one use that, because it is a very small footprint, actually could be something that would work on the property. Again, we still have variance issues, but it's much more sensible than building a retail store.
So I want to ask you why, in your opinion, why can't you just place it, 70 feet away from the right of way? Why in this specific location?
And if you would place the billboard, the anchor and whatever, the post for the billboard, 70 feet away, we'll just take your number, that would be up the hill through the slope easement. In order, there were some questions earlier, I think you had a question how to construct it. I think Mr. Earl had described most of the work would come off of Maple Lane. You'd actually have to build an access road up into that hillside to be able to do a foundation and to erect the billboard. And so as you're going up that hillside, you're compounding the problem because you have to go through the slope easement, which in some cases is up to 70% steep. You have to have this access road. Occasionally, you need to be able to service the thing, as the previous testimony had alluded to. And through all that, you definitely will be losing trees. So placing it just puts the billboard further up the hillside, which questioned earlier, if I'm on Maple Lane or I'm approaching on Rhode Island Road, I would have to timber to clear the sight line to be able to get to the view shed or the sign faces and stuff.
And did you evaluate the timbering?
Yes, that's one of the exhibits in the pack.
And I believe, Alex, if you turn to exhibit 10. And can you identify or explain what we're looking at here?
So the green shade is, the site is completely timbered. So there's forest cover on the entire property. That is what's shown in the green. The billboard location, if we follow the ordinance, and again, for those joining in Wilkins Township or the mayor, we are showing here because we're just trying to comply with what your ordinance says, which pushes it, if you remember, that setback on the Wilkins Township property. So the cyan blue or the baby blue color there, that would be billboard location as per your ordinance. That would apply, which again, is kind of a moot point because it's actually Wilkins Township. In order to have that billboard at that location, the brown stripe pattern, the diagonal stripe pattern, would be the area that would have to be cleared in order to have a sight line to that face. So doing some quick kind of math and just measuring kind of area square footage, that brown hatch pattern is about 40% of that total site will be cleared. If I only measure within the Churchill portion of that property, as was attested to earlier, you know, the portion of properties in Wilkins, it's about 60–65% of the Churchill property would actually be cleared.
Again, and then this isn't, and if you moved it up into Churchill, it would still take out a significant amount of trees.
Correct.
And again, just to be clear, this is a demonstrative exhibit that if you even assume, I mean, we're not taking into account the steepness of the slope here. Even if this is flat, this is how much vegetation would have to be. So this isn't taking into account, you know, the steep slope, you know, the financial cost, accessibility, lack
Or
of
even
access.
getting an access for new construction, I most likely would have to timber even further because I gotta snake that road to get up that hillside of that grade. So probably would not stay within the kind of the confines of that round diagonal line.
And then just by comparison, if you could turn to exhibit 11, please.
So this one was now just taking what was proposed in the application. So this 98-foot variance, and I know everybody, they hear it's a 100-foot setback and you're asking for relief of 98 feet. It sounds like a huge number. This is why. So if the billboard is positioned closer to the property line on Maple Lane, the amount of disturbance is, it's tiny. About 5% of the area would have to be timbered. So that, again, that brown diagonal is the amount of disturbance to clear the site triangle. So you had that visibility to the actual sign. So in order to do that, though, that's where we can't comply with the 100 feet. Again, the 100 feet actually puts you into Wilkins, and that's a whole different situation, but this is representing the post, which was asked earlier, is around the building setback. So where the vertical element hits the ground is close, we're about a foot or two off of that on the building setback, front yard setback. And it would be cantilever over the front yard setback, never over the right of way onto the road. There was a question by the property owner or the office tenants. There's nothing ever kind of cantilevered over the road. Always stop short of that.
In your opinion, is this the least amount of modification necessary for the proposed?
Yeah, yeah, for everybody.
Yes. Would this be visible to the properties further down or adjoining
Like the Comfort Inn?
Yes.
No. So if you do the math, and as there was the earlier questions and testimony, they just done some math. At the height of the billboard, being the 22 or the 20 feet, the plateau of the Comfort Inn is still about 25 feet above the top of the billboard in terms of where the elevation.
And
So any of the Penn Hills neighborhoods further north of where the Comfort Inn is, you know, as some people may be here that live in that neighborhood, you would not be able to see it because it's tucked down over the hillside. The visibility is from the parkway from Rhode Island Road, is where the visibility is.
and you said, this sign, how does it compare to the existing Comfort Inn sign size?
Size, I haven't been able to measure the Comfort Inn sign. You know what the high mass sign, it says Comfort Inn on. That sign is probably pretty darn close, if not larger than the size of the 250 square feet that's being asked.
Aside from the variance, in your professional opinion, does the proposed use comply with all the specific billboard standards and general criteria?
Yes.
Special exceptions. Thank you. And just to be clear, in summary, we just identify the hardships that justify the grant of the variances.
I think the extreme steepness of the slope, you know, in terms of the grade that's there, I hesitate to call it natural grade because I think it's been manipulated, but not by the property owner. It's happened 50, 70 years ago. The slope easement clearly is one of those. The kind of the fact that we're limited to access only from Maple Lane. If there was access coming from a different location, whether it's in Wilkins or somewhere else, it may have a completely different configuration. And I think clearly the vegetation, the community has tried, the region has tried tree cover. And so the notion of trying to maintain as much tree cover as possible, I think is one of those challenges. Hesitant to call it a hardship, but I think it is a uniqueness on the property, and for most people, seeing all those diagonal lines on that first version of if we comply with the ordinance, that probably isn't meeting the community objectives, where this is much closer to the community objectives.
I believe, does the curvature of the road play?
Curvature of the road, I think, again, does, I think, play in terms of hardship. So one of the things that as you move south and that road bends around with that steep hillside, the property owner of the office buildings, you know, had alluded to, you have limited sight coming around the corner because of that steep hillside and the grade. The billboard has been put into the end of the straight section. It's not even curvature. And that is done really as best as they could, where the grade flattened out, you got that little plateau that Mr. Earl had referred to, but it also allows you to have a straighter sight line. So as you're coming around the corner, you're able to see that what is coming ahead of you, not that all of a sudden you break around the corner and there's this billboard to the side. I think the curvature is definitely.
In your opinion, this is the only use that can be developed on this property?
From that list that I read off, I could not imagine how you would do a motel on that 1.4 acres, a retail business, a school, a distribution center. Again, it's taking that C2 and applying it to this site. It just doesn't work. It may work in other places within C2. It's just this property.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. So I just have 1 second with people here. Okay, so So how we're gonna proceed is we're going to go through, everybody's questions for cross-examination for this witness, and we will complete that tonight. And then we are going to schedule the continued hearing at that point. So at this point, if you have questions for Mr. Schwartz? Ms. Calabrese, you are first.
Thank you. I'll try to go quickly. Penn State, that's pretty impressive. I'm a Penn Stater and there's some more here.
Good people, yeah.
What's that?
Hit here too. We won't hold it against anybody.
It's your job to try to help landowners figure out how to use their land, right?
In this case, yeah.
And sometimes though, don't you have to say to landowners, you just bought a bad piece of property?
I don't necessarily agree in this case. I think this site is suitable for a builder.
In your professional capacity, you're here testifying as an expert.
Yes,
As an expert, sometimes you have to say to landowners, in general, you just bought a bad piece of property. Do you ever say that to anybody?
I think that maybe pushing the site too far is usually what you as a consultant will be advising a property owner, a developer, if they have a program that they want to kind of apply to that site, they may be just going too far, moving too much dirt, creating too much disturbance. I don't think it's necessarily, they're complying with the ordinance. You know, so I don't think, again, from a market standpoint, it's a reasonable site for a billboard.
But you certainly understand now, that's why you come to testify, that there are competing interests.
Sure.
And you talked about the curvature coming up around this, right? So you're aware that people are coming off the turnpike, which is 70 miles an hour, going onto the parkway, which is 55 miles an hour, coming right into that curve. You've driven that.
You first have to get through the intersection where the community garden is, and anybody that can do that at 55 miles an hour, God bless you. So I think that's a natural throttle in terms of slowing the speed.
Well, you're aware, aren't you, from, you've attended Penn State University and there's a lot of information about trees and so forth. One of the benefits of having a tree-lined road is that it causes people to slow down, correct?
Sure.
The whole purpose of the billboard is to catch the driver's attention, is it not?
Not from the folks on Maple Lane.
Not from the, I'm sorry,
Not for the folks on Maple Lane. The billboard's not there for the folks on Maple Lane.
it's there for the people coming off the turnpike in the parkway, is it not?
It's probably oriented more, if you look at the geometry of the folks that are coming northbound on Rhode Island Road.
But it's for the drivers, is it not?
Correct, but when you look to see where the position is based on where the driver would be on Rhode Island Road, it's more of a straight shot. They're looking directly at it.
So on page 12 of your report, your conclusion is that this billboard is a compatible use for its location. With the permissible setback variance, it does not pose any detrimental impacts to surrounding properties, and it's harmonious with the existing and any potential future development of the area as well. That's your report, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you talk about future development. You know that there is, the gentleman who spoke, he owns the building where they're trying to put a school in.
Yes.
If the school was there now or in the future, would that not have a detrimental impact to that surrounding area?
You're not gonna like my answer. That school is in Wilkins Township.
Well, then you yourself said.
Churchill Borough has their own zoning ordinance. Wilkins has their own zoning ordinance. Penn Hills has their own zoning ordinance. We have to apply those standards to each of those communities.
And you yourself, you said you're not even sure you're in the correct, you have the correct boundary.
I didn't say that. It has been alleged by somebody in the audience that the municipal boundary may be in question.
Your testimony was as best as can be understood.
Correct.
Of this municipal
I
boundary.
was acknowledging that somebody has raised the question of that boundary. The surveyor has laid that out. I didn't draw that line. I'm following what the surveyor had put down. They, to the best knowledge, using municipal records and property records, property information from the county, drew the line. So we think it's accurate.
That was your best understanding.
That is our best understanding. Save court orders and all the other discussion that came up tonight.
So would you consider playing in a park recreation?
Playing in a park
Yes.
recreation? Yes,
And would you consider swimming recreation?
yes.
And are you aware that Bullock Pen Park is in that surrounding area?
On the other side of Rhode Island Road.
And are you aware that people, when children go to swim?
May I finish?
Sure.
80 feet above the location where we're talking about. It's 80 feet above, up on top of the hill. I think it's fairly geographically disconnected.
But you're aware that there are people and children who swim in that
I am
area?
well aware, yes. We've assessed that. That was a discussion of one of those C2 sites that we previously looked at that related to distribution.
And so this billboard, which is to catch the eye of the driver and is going through, knowing that there are swimmers there and a recreation area that we're trying to repair, that doesn't change your opinion?
I don't think that billboard is any more different than any of the other signage that's on Rhode Island Road.
And you're a paid expert to be here, correct?
Yes,
So you're getting paid for your testimony tonight?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else here in the audience have any specific questions for Mr. Schwartz, Ms. Turnoff?
Yes, is it possible to put up one of the diagrams that was up most recently?
Hatch patterns, or give us an idea of which one?
What I'd like to know is exactly where on that property the billboard is going to be. I still don't have.
Okay, sorry about that. Got the wrong exhibit to start. This is exhibit 3.
Yes, that works. Can somebody with a cursor show me precisely where that billboard is going to be? Right there. Okay, thank you. Now, if you back out a little bit from that, or if there's any way to do that, Rhode Island Road comes up here. Then you have traffic from the eastbound 376 that comes around and merges in here.
Agreed.
And very shortly after that, you have traffic from westbound 376 that comes and merges into that. That merge is so confusing. They originally had yield signs up there. The problem with the yield signs is that they're just as visible from Rhode Island Road as they are from the ramps. And so nobody knew who was supposed to yield. So they put up, now they've modified the sign so it says ramp yield. I do this every day. But where you're coming from either one of those ramps onto there, you have to look that far behind you to figure out whether it's free to come in there. And then once you do that, if you're coming from the eastbound ramp, immediately the westbound ramp is right there trying to merge into you. Is there no thought that that billboard right in front of you is going to be a distraction to those merges and is going to be a traffic hazard to everyone involved? We can barely keep track of each other.
I'm not a traffic engineer.
I know.
There will be a traffic engineer testifying, so that may be a question to raise with Mr. Hayden.
Thank you, Ms. Turnoff. Any other questions from fellow standing in the audience? Yes, Ms. Rayburn.
So is there any way to estimate how many trees will be removed?
Oh, no, I can't tell you a number off my top of my head. Mr. Rowe, you guys did not do a tree survey, correct?
No, we did not.
We'd have to go off of aerial photography and estimate canopy size. We could probably get a general number. I can't tell you right now.
Well, I just want to point out that we're planting trees right up the street and you're going to be taking them out. What two directions are the billboard, is the billboard going to face? Rhode Island Road going both directions?
Which one do you want to go that?
The 3, exhibit 3.
Okay.
So either way you're going on Rhode Island Road?
Yeah,
You-
wait till it comes up. So you'll see it's kind of a V
Yes.
So the point is facing to your left shoulder, right? Okay, there's a face that is going northbound, so whenever that traffic that is coming down Rhode Island Road headed southbound, my guess is those motorists would see that face. The face that is on the other side of the V, the lower side of the V, that would be, as the woman just pointed out, Rhode Island Road, plus then that ramp coming off of the parkway to head northbound on the Rhode Island Road.
I guess I just want to point out that your company had to know the limitations of this property before making the application. So your necessity to ask for a variance is a self-imposed hardship.
Not asking a question.
Yeah, I'm gonna sustain that. If you have a question for the witness, please go ahead, but you can save your arguments for your case.
Well, did you realize that this would be a
It's,
self?
it's Mr. Schwartz here.
Do you realize that this is a self-imposed hardship? Don't you think that they knew the limitations of the property before they purchased it or leased it?
Just want to clarify that hardship, the definition of a hardship is something that is unique about the property that prevents you from complying with the ordinance. I don't think the applicant has created any situation. They didn't create the natural terrain. They certainly did not create the
They
sloping
didn't create
easements.
it, that they were aware of it, I believe, before they purchased it.
If they did due diligence, hopefully they had looked at that stuff, but that's not a self-imposed hardship. I want to be clear.
Thank you, Ms. Rayburn. Anybody else here in the audience has questions for Mr. Schwartz?
Hi, Mr. Schwartz. Earlier, you testified that you did find various public, like, references to try to show where the boundary line was. And I think you said something to the effect you used your best.
No, I was just reacting to your testimony from earlier, just acknowledging that you alleged that there could be a discrepancy in the boundary.
Okay.
So what the surveyor drew, again, I did not draw that survey.
Okay, do you know what references the surveyor who authored the drawing used?
Not off the top of my head.
Do you know if he listed the references on the drawing itself?
If you need to show them something
Would
there,
be-
there's,
Is the site plan in the document?
It's Exhibit 3.
Please.
Yeah, Alex, you may have to go to, Tim, was there an existing conditions in the
you
application?
need to,
There was not, no.
wait, I'm sorry.
Say that again. She was not-
I was asking Mr. Earl if the existing condition plan, so the raw survey is, before they draw the site plan, is typically where they would put those types of things. So it doesn't appear that the notes are on the site plan. I'd have to look on the existing conditions and see.
Okay. In any of the documentation created by any engineers, CAD people, designers, from the conception of this up until everything produced at this moment, is there anything in the record to indicate exactly what references were being relied upon to produce the documents that are in the record?
I didn't produce the document. I don't have a hard copy of that document. I can only find that information out, and if there is a continuation, then maybe.
Yeah, if you don't know, that's okay with me. I just want to I'm trying.
We'll have to look. I
Yeah,
don't.
once bitten, twice shy. Would you be surprised to know that the boundary dispute case between Penn Hills and Wilkins?
I'm gonna just renew this.
You gotta ask a question.
Okay. Your testimony is that you're simply relying on a drawing produced by another person that we haven't heard from yet.
Yeah.
You used it,
Yes,
accepted it, that's fine.
yes. Professionally sued. I have no reason to believe that it wasn't professionally done.
And nor do I, for the record. I'm just curious as to what references were used, the ingredients to bake the cake.
Yes, understood.
Because do you think that there could be a missed reference?
I have no reason to
Okay,
believe that.
I'm gonna sustain the objection. If you have any other questions, now's the time. It sounds like there's gonna be another witness who might be able to answer these questions that you have, but it's not
Okay,
this one.
as the sign, the purpose of the sign is to advertise.
It's usually
Generally.
what a billboard is supposed to, yes.
Okay, and it will advertise people traveling on Rhode Road.
And the ramps is,
And
the
the
Richard
ramps.
point.
Do you
But
think,
you gotta talk one at a time, you can't talk over each other.
Did you get it as a woman?
will you be able to see it, do you think, from the parkway itself? 376.
Can you put exhibit 3 back up again? Yes.
Even as a postage stamp, will you be able to see it?
If you made a conscious effort to look for the billboard, yes, I think you would be able to see the billboard.
Okay.
That's not typically how billboards are cited. I mean, billboard companies want to make sure that drivers are not distracted. And so this notion of turning your head at the billboard is not how they place things.
If they did turn their head, they probably wouldn't be able to read it from the font size at that distance.
I can't say that. That depends upon when they act.
Pardon?
That probably depends upon the content that's actually going on. I could have a big T that takes up the 20 foot of height.
Yeah.
I probably could see that
Thank
as opposed to dog show that may be in font, in
Yeah.
small font. That's too variable.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. It's a range, it's a function of what is presented, at what scale.
And most motorists don't look at billboards in that manner. They don't do.
Well, I'd be speculating if I agree with you. I don't know what they do when they drive their car. Do you know how many public records were discovered?
I cannot tell you that.
I just didn't know if in his travels, someone.
I agree.
Okay,
Can you wrap it up, please?
yes.
With questions that are relevant to Mr. Schwartz's direct testimony.
Are you basically completely satisfied with your evaluation
Yes,
and work product?
yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, anyone else have any non-repetitive questions that are relevant to the direct testimony you heard here today? Okay, anybody on Zoom? Mr. Stranahan or Mr. DeAndrea, any non-repetitive relevant questions? No?
No.
Okay, board have any other questions for Mr. Schwartz? Okay, any other redirect, Mr. Gallagher? Okay, thank you. Okay, so what we're gonna do is continue the hearing. Just a minute to chat with the board. Here, and last time we said Monday, right? Anyway, okay, then, yeah, we'll take a little break here, do some scheduling. Alex, are they already scheduled for the 20?
That's correct.
Ms. Keller.
1, 2, 3, so it'd be the 23rd. Oh my gosh, I went to October, I'm sorry. September 25th. Okay, so you're already on the calendar. We'll just make short work.
I'm gonna see if I can get a hard copy from them.
With everybody, just FYI, when I check with the folks.
So we're back now on live.
To the folks on Zoom, we're looking at September 25th to continue the hearing. Any objections? Okay.
One moment, please. I'm going to promote the township manager Wilkins to panelist who may have an objection or comment. Rebecca, if you would like, please unmute and turn on your camera, please. you may address the zoning hearing board.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to let you guys know that we have our board meeting that night, and it's the first budget meeting. So if that's the night that you choose, I won't be able to be at the meeting.
Okay, will you have representation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's another meeting in Penn Hills, but I don't know if it's relevant for this. I mean, a lot of people here might be at the other meeting.
Okay. Well, we'll get it scheduled that day. Okay, we're gonna do it, reschedule for September 25th, 7 PM. And Mr. Graziani will put on the website and post it and things like that, but you don't have to re-advertise in the newspaper because we're announcing it.
Repost the property as well.
I just keep it posted.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll adjourn for tonight. We'll continue the hearing again, September 25th, 7 PM. Thank you for your patience.
They do